streets, the urban lit movement. My name is Jessica Stalker. I'm a librarian here at the Warren Newport Public Library in Gurnee. Today's program is presented by the Adult Reading Roundtable in conjunction with Rails. The Adult Reading Roundtable, which is also known as ART, is dedicated to developing readers' advisory skills and promoting reading for pleasure through public libraries. Led by a steering committee of Chicago area librarians, we plan and present readers' advisory training and other professional development opportunities for librarians and library staff. You can find out more information at artreads.org. The format of today's program will be as follows. We will begin with our panel of authors, followed by audience questions, and then we'll move on to Mary B. Morrison, who will talk about why we love street lit. There will be a chance for you to ask questions to both the panelists and Mary B. Morrison as well. Please go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A or in the chat, and we'll go ahead and get to them just as best as we can. My co-moderators today are both from Chicago Public Library, although different branches. I have Lane Ahrens, who is a branch manager. And then I also have librarian Loretta Murray. And so thank you to both of you for helping me today. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our authors. So first up, we have Quan. Quan is indeed a writer, a thinker, and a trailblazer. He has more than 45 books published. Just released in March is his latest, Promise Broken, which is book 1 of the Promises series. And he has another one coming in December with Nikki Turner called Fool's Paradise. Next up, we have Joy Deja King. She's a literary sweetheart with more than 50 publications, including her latest 2 titles released in June, Sugar Babies and Deadly Divorce. Coming in October, she has one called The Legacy Part 3, Keep the Family Close. Next up, we have Anna Black, who has said, and I quote, "I dream in color and print my dreams in black and white," which I love. She has over 24 books in print, and her latest being Who Do I Run To, which came out in April. And then we are going to have Keith Kareem Williams joining us. Hopefully, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little blurb about him for when he does. Keith Kareem Williams calls himself a bearded savage and author, and is the author of over 20 books and 7 screenplays. His latest is in the form of a short story within the compilation called Sticky Situations, an erotic anthology, which came out last January. Okay, so Mary B, wave hello, Mary. We're going to get to Mary in just a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and do our author panel first, and then I'll introduce you, okay?
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Lane, who's going to get us rolling with our questions.
And just a quick note, if anyone is following the chat, I do have links to Semicolon Bookstore, a Black woman-owned bookshop in Chicago. Their links are in the chat if you want to learn more about all of those authors' new books and what they have available for purchase. So please check those out. And I'm so excited. We're here in the presence of a legend. Let's start with Quan. Quan, you were one of the original writers of the urban fiction renaissance that began really in the early 2000s. Did you grow up reading Donald Goines or Iceberg Slim, any of the progenitors of what we think of as contemporary urban lit? And do you work with developing writers who may have grown up now with your books? And lastly, how would you say the urban lit movement has changed over time?
Well, I did, strangely enough, I didn't get into like the whole Donald Goines, Iceberg Slim until I was a little older. I grew up reading like Anne Rice and stuff like that because I'm a big fan of fantasy. So like I discovered Donald Goines and Iceberg Slim and those guys later. So my mother always just made sure that I had like the books were available to me, but my mother just always wanted to make sure that I had a broad scope of things that I read. As far as developing writers, yeah, I always like help when I can because I find that when a lot of us started, there was no one who wanted to help us. So like, when you have writers who need advice and need things like that, just need a little coaching. Yeah, I definitely do that. And I'm sorry, what was the last question?
Sure. How would you say the genre has changed? How has the urban lit movement changed over time?
It's changed quite a bit. Primarily being accessibility with the invent of like the Kindle programs in Amazon. Because when we started, we had to print the books and we had to go from city to city and state to state and so on and so forth, and kind of get the word out there like that. We didn't have, and I sound like an old man when I say this, but we didn't have social media when I started. I mean, I think we had like Black Planet and maybe MySpace, but social media wasn't really heavy like that, and we definitely didn't have the one click. That one click phenomenon came later. So I think accessibility, and it's a little harder to how do I say this without sounding like a not nice person? It's a little bit easier to get your stuff popping now. I'll say that.
Great, thank you. And next, Loretta. Loretta, you have a question for Joy?
I think she's muted and she doesn't know
She's
it.
muted.
I'm so sorry. Didn't even know I was muted. Oh God. Okay, so can you hear me? Am I too loud? Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Some people don't know this, but I have to say this. I'm Rhea Alexis Banks' sister. So she's the one who made the connection. I just want the authors to know. Enjoy Deja King. Um, you're up. In your popular bit series, excuse me, the main character, Precious Cummings, is a favorite. How do you balance fan demand versus continuing character, trying to come up with new characters and stories to explore?
That is such an interesting question. And you know why? It's because I kind of can understand it because, like, even today, I still like daily, I watch Young and the Restless. Like before I watch anything else, I watch Young and the Restless. I am so attached to those characters. So it's like I understand how readers, when they get attached to someone, but you want to kind of explore other things, but they kind of, you know, so it's like you just have to kind of like because I always say that I work for my readers. So I have to find a way to make sure that I kind of make them happy and that I give them, and sometimes I don't. And when I don't, it's like, trust me, I hear about it. It's like, so I have to try to find a way to make them happy, but also make myself happy from a creative standpoint. And luckily, I feel like I don't always get it exactly right, but I feel like I am getting it kind of right because I still love writing. Like it still doesn't feel like I really enjoy it. I still feel passionate about it. I enjoy it. I love doing it. So it's like, I feel like I find a balance of where I'm able to listen to what my readers are saying they want and what they need, but also fulfilling kind of what I need too. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's not like I'm finding a cure for cancer. You know what I mean? It's like, so I can't take myself too seriously. So it's just, but it's nice but you want to love what you do. That's important to me. I want to always love and enjoy it. And I still do. So I feel like I've been able to find that balance.
Okay, one more along with that question. And is it difficult for you to end a series? I don't know if I specified that.
Oh, clearly it's the clearly these people like 100 years old is still going. I mean, like, it's like, yes, it's clearly difficult for me to end. I'll always try to find a way to keep them going, like ending one series, but still bringing them over to another, because I literally become attached to them like they're a member of my own family, in my head, you know what I mean? So I clearly, yes, I really, really do. It's almost like I promise you, sometimes I feel like, especially with my characters from the bitch series, like my bitch series, my Stacking Paper series, Precious and Genesis and all them, like they're like really people in my head. So it's like to let them go is almost like kind of letting go a part of me. So I really feel like when I do end it, it won't be like the end. I'll just like walk away. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay.
I really do. Because I don't think I could just be like the end, it's over, the finale, never coming back, I will never see you again. I don't think I would be able to do that.
Okay. Fair enough.
Thank you, Joy. We're going to go ahead and move on to Anna. Hi, Anna. Thank you for being here. I think you're, oh, there you go.
Hello.
Hi. So I read your most recent book, Who Do I Run To? It's so good. And I was wondering, I noticed that your books really lean romance, right? They're really more like contemporary romance and not as much like street lit. And I'm wondering, and also very erotica based. I'm wondering, I'm wondering if you consider yourself an urban romance writer and how you sort of see romance and urban lit intertwining.
Yeah. I do write a couple different genres. I do write adult contemporary romance. I do urban fiction also. Some of my books like Chi-Town Bosses and the Women That Love Them. I have a couple titles that are urban, and I have some erotica pieces too. So I do a couple different genres, but my heart of heart is romance. So that's why I started when I first came into the literary world. Like Quan was saying, we the old dusties. Like my first book came out like back in 2008 sometime when, you know, social media wasn't real big and popping. I remember being on the road a lot, going to any event or venue that I could just to get a paperback in people's hand. So I do a couple different series genres, but my main go-to would be the romance or contemporary romance. And then your second question was, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just wondering how you see those two things related. Romance, most urban lit has romance in it.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Because every bad guy has a girl. Every bad girl has a guy. So although they hustle or they're doing street ventures, they have a significant other, you know, and especially a lot of urban guys that have that one chick, that main chick that's with them through everything. So although they might be bad boys, their heart usually belongs to one particular person. So I love writing a bad boy just being swooned over this one chick, no matter what. She takes them back, she takes them back, she takes them back. So it's just how it is. So yeah, it's definitely intertwining because there's no story without a significant other. I can say whether it's paranormal, even if you're a little crazy, you have to have love somewhere in your life. You know, we don't go our entire lives without having some type of counterpart. So yeah, if that answers the question.
It does. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and move on to Kareem.
Hi.
Hey, we're so excited you joined us. Thank you for making it today.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So we've just, heard a little bit from the other authors and what they've read before as far as their influences. And I was struck by your Instagram bio. Your Instagram bio, for everyone, says, "I write fiction that reads like hip hop with the rhythm of reggae that crashed into heavy metal and then began to bleed neo soul." So how does music influence your writing?
Because my influences come from all over the place. I read every genre, not just what I write, because there's always things that you pick up from other authors and so on and so forth. So the reason why I came up with that tagline to describe my work is because one of the hardest questions that I've always had to answer is, well, what do you write? And I could say urban because most of my stories take place in an urban setting, but I've written urban paranormal. I've written urban fantasy where you have modern day gods fighting in Manhattan streets. I've written urban erotica. So I just always wanted to let people know that my work is a mixture of all my influences. And the easiest way to do it was just through musical terms because it's so relatable to people. So instantly, you see like how the tagline caught you. When people read it, it instantly get curious because that resonates with them to get it.
For sure, for sure. Loretta.
I'm next. I gotta say this. You know, I was very nervous when we first started, but ooh, I'm having fun. So this is great. Anyway, this is for all the authors, and I'll start with Anna, then Joy, then Keith, and then move on to Kwan. Genre fiction of any kind has familiar tropes and themes that readers are looking for. Urban lit themes include music, drugs, sex, etc. What is the unique perspective you bring to urban lit?
For me, definitely not drugs.
Mhm.
Um, I I do tend to most of my urban fictions. It's like they're leaving the game. Like they're leaving. They're transforming. Now they're moving over. I'm older now. Now I want to have children. Now I want to settle down. So usually I have small flashbacks of the street days. I do offer uh, tag towing folks, because they have bodied a few people. But I usually just bring more of the romance aspect to the books because I usually have someone that's not in the game anymore. Like now they're at that next stage where they were probably in the game from like maybe 11, 13 to like 29, and now that's all behind them. So I bring more of relationships, love, family to
Mhm.
my urban books more so than the streets, drugs, and things like that.
Okay. Joy Deja King, you're next, please. Again, what is the unique perspective you bring to urban lit?
Here's the thing. I feel like when you're writing and stuff, you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're just putting your own spin on it. So I feel like what makes like my characters who they are is because I'm just speaking from a different perspective, my perspective, meaning that what I've seen in life, people that I've met in life, experience that I've had in life or experience that I know others have had in life. So when I'm writing, I'm using my imagination. I'm also using real things that may have transpired or makes me like, you might embellish it a little bit, because it's fiction, you know what I mean? Bring a little extra drama. But at the same time, it's like you allow your readers to kind of connect with these people because they seem so real and authentic to them because they're coming from a place of realness. So I just feel like with me, like with my books, I would tell any writer, it's like every story has basically been told in some format. You're just trying to put your own unique spin on it based on your personality, what you know. So I just think that's what makes my experiences different because they're unique. You know what I mean?
Okay, okay, awesome. I think I said Keith next and then Kwan.
Yeah. What I try to do is I'll I want my readers to see themselves in my story.
Okay.
So with a lot of my urban lit, no matter what genre it falls into, whether it's science fiction, fantasy, erotic, or romance, it's usually like everyday folks. And
Mhm.
then you see when the crime and the danger kind of, whether it's a side character that introduces it, comes kind of like crashing into their lives.
Okay.
But I always try to write material that, like, the biggest compliment a reader could give me is I saw myself in that story, even if it's science fiction, fantasy, because no matter what genre you write, I think the most important thing is that you put the humanity in the story. That's what the classic science fiction, that's what makes it work. The classic romance, the classic street lit. It's it's having someone that's not even from that particular background still be able to read it and get it and feel it.
Okay.
Because we all just telling human stories. It's just that it takes place in places that we're from or we've seen. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay. Next up, Mr. Kwan.
I think two things that I bring to the table, or so I've been told. I mean, well, the first thing is what I've learned over my 2 decades, however long I've been doing this, is that with every genre that you're writing, there are certain unspoken rules and boundaries that you're not supposed to cross. I cross them all. I don't believe in boundaries. I believe that when you put boundaries on your writing, it restricts and it taints the process. So I just go all over the place. Like I may write, like the brother Kareem said, I may have a street story where there's vampires or werewolves in it. So I just write whatever feel good and I just be as creative as possible. The second thing is I'm really, really good at humanizing monsters. I feel like it's not enough to where you can write a memorable character. I have to bring these characters to life, like kind of like when Dr. Frankenstein was cranking the thing and he wanted to bring his monster to life. These characters have to live with you. I want these characters to live with you long after you close my book. I want you to really feel some type of emotional attachment, like these are people that you knew in real life. Whether you see yourself, whether you see somebody that you know. I want them to be, they can be like killers or they can be this, they can from whatever walk of life they're in. I need them to leave a lasting impression on you. I need that, like, you have to go back and say, like, you know what, I need to read that again because I felt that hit me in my soul. So definitely, I think that is just giving life to these characters, giving them real life and making them real to you, and feeling like when I kill a character, I want you to feel like you lost a relative. I want you to feel like you lost a loved one or you lost a friend, or if you dislike a character, I want you to really, really hate them. I want you to hate them like it's someone that you really know.
Wow. Okay. All right. Profound. Thank you.
Juan, I'm going to stick with you for a minute. I'm going to take the other side of that question, right? So you're talking about like how you're breaking the rules and sort of writing what you need to write. But I'm wondering about your audience. Like when you're writing, do you know that your books are going to have crossover appeal? I know Kareem addressed it a little bit in that he wants everyone to sort of feel like they can relate to these characters. But in particular, your latest book, Promise Broken, that one feels like it could have some young adult appeal as well, and not just for adults. And I'm just sort of wondering, do you know that when you're writing? Do you have that intention when you're writing, or is it just something that happens?
Well, with Promise Broken, it was very intentional because I have two teenage daughters, one daughter in college, one daughter needs to go to college. So I started thinking about like just different things that affect them in their everyday life. So that was intentional. As far as everything else, it took me a long time to learn that for as much as I want to please my readers, I can't write for them. I have to write for me. I have to write what makes me feel good because like, and all the writers in the panel will tell you, you'll get these readers like, oh, we want this, we want that, or go here with this, go here with that. So when you let that creep into your head, it starts to doubt you. You doubt yourself, and it waters your stuff down. So I started saying like, yeah, you know what? You're gonna buy my work and you're gonna support me, or you're not. But I'm gonna write what makes me feel good. This is not about you. This is about me because writing started out as my therapy. I didn't get paid in the beginning, especially if you were signing a Triple Crown. That's another story. But I didn't really get paid in the beginning like that. I wrote for me because there was therapy. It was something that made me feel good. And I found that once I started telling my readers, not, and I don't want to say go to hell because I think that's a bad way to phrase it, but like when I started telling my readers, you will not dictate what I write, I was able to broaden the scope of what I was doing. I was able to rediscover the fun of writing. So like I write for me, like, and the fact that they rock with me and they feel it, that's a bonus. But I'm definitely writing for me, always, from now and forever.
It's working. Lane, you can go ahead and take the next one.
Sure. So my next question is for Joy. Joy, let me ask first of all, this has to do with the design of your books. Am I mistaken, or do you not model for some of your own book covers?
Yes, you're correct. Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I would love to know more about the process of designing, the glam process you have, how you style your photo shoots, and simple reasons, or maybe it's more complicated. Why do you feature yourself instead of models or other photo sources?
Well, okay, I'm gonna work back then up. The last question, it was the modeling of the own book, that actually started with, let's go back to when I was Triple Crown. And okay, the very first book they put out was the Bitch book. The original one is a model on there. Okay. So then when I was putting out Bitch Reloaded, the same person who did design Bitch, they were actually going to design Bitch Reloaded. And we were actually in Atlanta for, I think it was there for a book event or something like that. But the model, the guy that he hired for the book cover, something happened where she didn't show up. So Keith was like, why don't you just do it? And so I was like, yeah, because, you know, the way, if you saw on the first one, her face is kind of halfway cut off. So it was like, yeah, I can do that. So I did it. And I was going to put the book out myself. Now, mind you, I went back, I ended up signing that book to Triple Crown. And during that process, Vicky was like, why don't you just go ahead and stay on the cover? She was like, what's her face did it at that time, that book by the woman, I think her name was Superhead.
Oh, yeah.
Kareem
Yeah. Williams. Yeah.
Yeah. So Vicky was like, what's her, you know, whatever she did it. I was like, you know what? Okay, yeah. And so what ended up happening, it became a thing because when I tell you, readers got such a kick. At that time, I would do book signs and things of that nature. They would get a kick and they'd be like, is that you on the book cover? And I'd be like, yeah. And they just really love the fact that I wrote the book and that was me on the cover. And it just became a formula that I just ran with. So I guess I kind of have to give Vicky credit. I kind of have to give Keith credit. It just kind of happened and it worked. And so, and then I did some books I'm not, like on the Mafia Princess series, that's a whole nother person, but anything that's based upon like things that I write, I am on the covers and it really does work for me. Now, in terms of, even when I have other people on the covers, I do it myself. When I have people that design them, any design that comes up on a book, I've came up with it in terms of what I want the layout to look like, anything. All I do is I find a person who can take what's in my head and put it on that cover. People ask me all the time. Sometimes people ask me to design their covers for them, but it's like, it's really I really do enjoy it. I mean, I honestly love to do it. I haven't gotten to that aspect of it yet, but when I'm doing it, it is a lot of work. Like, you know, you have to, you know, because it's like one thing that's different. Like sometimes when I used to use Keith, I have a different designer now. When he would give me, I would tell him kind of what I would want and he would give me the cover. And to me, a lot of times when he would do the cover, it looked kind of vulgar. And when I say vulgar, I mean like, it looks like something men would only like it was very kind of in your face sexual. But for me, I wanted the cover. I think that women want to feel sexy, but my audience is always like, when I write and do things, I'm always doing it with women in mind. Like if other people read my books, that's fine, but I'm always thinking about, and specifically Black women. I mean, I'm just being honest. So when I'm writing books, that's who I'm trying to appeal to. And so I when I'm designing these books, I want the books to have sex appeal to them in a way, but not in your face, vulgar sex, but a confidence type of sex that I feel like all women want to have. I think that all women have that inside of them. And so when I design my covers, that's what I try to put out there.
That's so interesting to me. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm next. Anna Black, you're up. Okay,
I'm
the,
here.
the relationships in your books are often complicated and problematic. Do you experience strong emotions while writing stories, scenes, etc.? And then the next question is, how do you feel about the fact that some people may be triggered emotionally by the events in your books?
Wow. Y'all know I'm a hopeless romantic. So my emotions are always high in my books. I have scenes where literally I have to stop because I'm crying writing a scene. So I get very emotional. I have a book called I'm Doing Me, and it's a 2-part series. And one of my characters, Tressa, although was of the villain in the book. A lot of people did not like her. She was just the one that people hated. But in the scene where when she dies, I have her. And if you haven't read it, I'm sorry, I don't want to spoiler alert. She decides to OD, and she took some drugs that she knew was gonna just wipe her out. Right in that scene, oh my God, my face was so wet. I had to pause, take a minute, go back, because like Deja was saying, your characters are like family members to you. Your characters are like almost your babies, and it's like good or bad, I'm losing one. So very high emotions. And over the years with my books, I write a lot about plus size women, BBWs, and a lot of my followers or supporters, they resonate with it, and they just like, oh, it's such a feel good for me because it gives me hope that I will find love. It gives me inspiration that love can still come to me. So I never had a woman to say, or a reader to comment that it triggers some bad emotions. So I really haven't had that type of feedback, but I do have women that tells me that it just gives them hope, or it just gives them inspiration, or it was like so refreshing that they like, okay, all women, yes, because I try to give women hope that love exists. And it's like, sometimes we have to not say lower our standards, but sometimes you have to see what's in front of you, because you can have the perfect person in front of you, but you're so busy looking over this person and you don't see that the right person is right in front of you. So I give women, I guess a different way of looking at it. We all got a type. Yeah, we do. But sometimes your type should just be happiness. Your type should just be who treats you good. Your type should be one that cares for you. So yeah, I think that I'm more inspiring than triggering, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Kareem, this one's for you.
Okay.
I'm wondering, I'm wondering when you knew that street lit urban fiction was going to be the genre that you wrote. If you've written it all along, or if you sort of ended up there. I know you've written different genres, right? And I'm also wondering what you enjoy the most in writing urban fiction.
Okay. I started off as a kid really just writing poetry. And then I didn't really intend to be an author at first, right? Because I was always good at math at school. Like I was 14 doing calculus. So I wanted to be an engineer. But when I went to college, I took a fiction workshop, and the professor, he introduced me to Zora Neale Hurston and Ralph Ellison. So I said to myself after I read their work, I was always a reader, but it was really like dope to me to read people telling stories that I could relate to, describing their lives. Like I used to think, well, we want to read about where I don't even want to be here. You know what I mean? So why would anybody want to read this? But then I started, I learned a lot in that class. So that's when I decided that my first book would be written. And my first book is basically just a freestyle. It's, of where I grew up. And the way it resonated with people let me know, okay, it's, what I have to say is important. Is it's something I could share with the world, and it's important, right? Because sometimes, I grew up in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Trust me, you ain't want to be there. But there are so many stories, real people. So that's why I decided to write an urban, write urban/street lit. And then as I moved on, I said, well, you know what? I like to be creative, like Quan said. I never wanted to be boxed in for my stories to get repetitive. So everything that you pick up is something totally different. Because I was a kid, I was in the hood reading comic books. Like I was the kid on the stoop the OGs doing what they do, and I'm reading the X-Men comic. So for me to limit myself to say, well, I can't write a superhero story. No, I'm just gonna write it my way with characters that, you know, could be me or people that I know and so on and so forth. So that's how I kind of made that decision. Also, just the way that I typically sell my books pre-pandemic, like I'm really outside with my table. I joke and tell people I was a pop-up shop before a pop-up shop was a thing. Like I go outside, I got a little table that I won't throw away. Cause me, that little table and my duffel bag been on some adventures. Cause I'll pull up on any block, any city, open up my table and just sell books. And when people would ask me like, well, why are you in bookstores? I'm like, I am the bookstore. Like right here, this is what it is. So that's also, you know, and a lot of times I'm in New York, I go to the hood. Like, you know, a lot of authors might, you know, feel, you know, book events are cool, but I actually enjoy, in terms of what I enjoy the most, I like pulling up on those blocks and coming across dudes who say, yo, Pam, I don't really read like that. I haven't read a book since high school. And then for them to take one of my books, I'm like, and they usually just do it like, look, I'm gonna just show you love. I'm gonna support you because you're out here doing this. And for them to come back 2 days later and buy 5 different other books in all different genres, that's what I love the most. Because it's, with a lot of people, it's not that they don't read. They just need things that resonate with them. And they don't think sometimes that the book that they've come across speaks to them. So I hope I answered your question.
That's amazing. Grassroots literacy, seriously, from street to street. I love that. And that's, as librarians, what we try to do too, is really try to reach people where they're at and try to give them what they need in that moment. So I really appreciate that.
I was just going to say, I think your words just melted the hearts of all the librarians in the audience. Because, you know, that's all we want to do, is we want to show people that there is a book for them out there, you know, whatever that may be. So I have a general question for all of our authors today. And this speaks back a little bit to some other things we've touched on, but, you know, women are often abused or treated poorly in some of these urban or street lit books. Why is this? Why is there a lot of violence in urban literature? And how do you personally address criticism over sex, drugs, and or violence that are in your books? Maybe, let's see, Quan, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times you have to remember these books are a reflection of life in the neighborhoods that we come from. So, and sadly enough, in a lot of these cases, women in these homes are treated poorly. Like, what's the phrase? The most disrespected creature on earth is a Black woman. So sometimes we show that, but we don't just show that. We also start by painting that picture, and then we show how he or she overcomes. So, and I'm not necessarily a big fan of glorifying it, but it is a part of everyday life in a lot of these urban communities. You know, the poverty, the disrespect, the this to that, men not carrying themselves accordingly. We don't live fairy tales. So, and most of these stories, speaking for myself personally, most of these stories are based on people, places, and things that we've lived through and we've gone through. So we're just kind of like, we're parroting the things that we've seen in life growing up, or the things that we see in our neighborhoods. But I think it's important, like, you can paint that picture, you can show that, but women are more than that. They're not just whipping dogs. They are not just things to be walked on and abused. So I like to try to reflect that in my books, which is why I have certain characters, but there's always strong female characters in my books. Female characters that are just like no nonsense, because that's how my moms and my aunties and all of those were.
Joy, you read a lot of strong female characters. Would you like to comment about either the way women are portrayed in urban fiction, or criticism that you may have received over the sex and violence in the books?
Right. Well, not to minimize your question in terms of like urban books, but to me, that's more of a, because for many years, I remember with mainstream movies, one of the biggest complaints is the violence and how women and everything are treated. And these are quote unquote mainstream white movies. Do you know what I mean? So I think, so I just think that that's not just an urban thing. I really think that's just as a country, we are, we have a lot of violence. You know what I mean? That's why we're having a lot of these things where they're trying to have more gun restrictions, because we are a country with violence. And I think with writing, when you're an author, you're writing things that are relevant in life. And, unfortunately, in life, Black, white, Hispanic, whatever, violence is real. Women are abused, some men might be abused, people are killed. And so when you write street novels, illegal criminal activity does tend to, have more violence, so, you're just being authentic to what you're writing about. And so I think that it's important to, counter that, to have some strong characters in there, female characters that says, no, I'm not doing that. I'm in control. That's one of the reasons why, I wrote the character, the bitch series, because when I first was reading street books, it was like always drug dealer guy has girlfriend who runs after drug dealer boyfriend, holds it down for drug dealer boyfriend. I'm like, it was like kind of that same formula. And I was like, but when you find a woman that's making her own moves and trying to make things happen, what do they typically call her? They call her a bitch. So I was like, I want to create this character where women are like, you know what? I don't have to chase after the man. I can be that woman who is making moves, making decisions. And so I just think that when you say that, I get the question, I get it. I just think that violence and sex and abuse and all those, terrible things are just something that's relevant in the world that we live in. And as an author, and when you're writing certain type of stories, street lit just might seem to, in some aspects of it, bring it out more, because in street life, there is going to be more killings, and there's going to be more violence. And so we're just telling the realness of that.
Thank you. And yeah, you're right. It's not limited to street lit. It's but yeah, we just want to make sure we address that is a concern some readers may have.
Yeah.
But certainly not limited to this genre.
Right, because if you read romance novels, you're not expecting somebody getting knocked upside their head all the time. You're looking for romance. You know what I mean? You're reading a romance novel, so you're expecting flowers and butterflies and all that good warm your heart stuff. When you read a street novel, like you're looking for what's going on in these streets. You know what I mean? And if that's not your thing, I definitely understand it, and you should not read it.
It's not the book for you.
Right? Exactly.
Keith or Anna, did you want to add to that conversation at all?
Yeah, it's Anna. You want to go first, ladies first?
Oh, it doesn't matter. Go ahead, Keith. I can wait. Go ahead.
I actually wrote a book called Death in the City, right? And after reading it, I had a lot of readers hit me up and say, "Oh, you made me cry, and why did you kill this person?" and so on and so forth. And I was like, well, the title is Death in the City. Like, you didn't realize everybody wasn't gonna make it. But also what I try to do is I definitely try to be as realistic as I can, and also show readers like these are real consequences to your actions. Like, it'll shock me when they'll be shocked when like a character dies or something bad happens to them. I'm like, that's real life. This is what really happens. Like, most don't make it out. Like, you have a run and then at some point it's over with. Just, based on what you do. So that type of story, yeah, it's gonna have these things because it's not a fiction issue, it's a societal issue. Like, the question that, when people read it, like, as to the people who, as you say, would like get offended or why is it like this, the bigger question is, or the scarier question is, yeah, but this is what's really happening. So that is scarier than just the fiction, so it's a societal issue. So we just a reflection of writing what really transpires. And it's a genre that's based on realism.
Yeah. Thank you. And Anna, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, everyone on the panel made some real strong, gave some real good, strong answers. And that's just it. Overall, it's just the reality of life, not just urban life, just life, period. I am like a serial watcher of crime shows. I watch Deadly Women. I watch Forensic Files, The New Detectives. You know, that's my thing. I'm constantly watching this. So a lot of people, unfortunately, even a lot of children, young adults suffer from violence and bad behavior. But on another note, back to me being the romantic that I am, a couple of my hood stories or urban stories, my ladies are not abused. They're not suffering violence. They don't have men that dog them out. I have um, hood wives in Rich Thugs of Chicago. Ashley and Nico treats his woman like silk. No abuse. He a street dude, yes, but he loves his lady. He gives her the utmost respect. He treats her well. Chaos, crazy, all get out. But when it comes to Kai, he treats her amazingly well. So not all stories have the woman being in a beat down situation or a abuse situation. Some tales do have, you know, happy um, female characters in the book that's not being berated or abused or dragged through the mud. So urban fiction, like it comes from the author, their imagination and what they want to put out in the universe or the world or the reader's world. So a lot of authors do create books, I myself, where it might be an urban setting with some illegal stuff going on, but they're not dogging out women. Because I have books that I even eliminate strip clubs. I'm not gonna have a strip club scene because I'm not gonna give you a version of a woman being, you know, mistreated. So it just depends on the author and how they deliver the story because it can still be urban where women are not treated bad as well, is what I want to add.
Yeah, I think that's a stereotype that we as library professionals might be bringing to books when we're purchasing and promoting books. So it was really important for us to hear from all of you on that topic. Thank you. Loretta?
Okay. This question is for all the authors. Um, so I don't know the order. Joy, Deja King, Anna, Quan, and then Keith. Okay. What do you like to read? Who are your favorite authors?
Oh my gosh, let me tell you, I never get to read other books now that I write myself
Mhm.
because it's like I have so many other things that I have to, get done. It's like enough time in the day. But before I actually started writing, I used to love Jackie Collins and James Patterson. Those were like my two favorite authors. And it was just like so it's kind of crazy that that I went to kind of like the urban street thing, even though that's really, I mean, that's what I love. That's what I like to write about. I really do like, but I like to like throw any little, like, mixture of like entertainment industry type stuff in it. But that's like my core street. But I used to love James Patterson and Jackie Collins. And those are still, if I ever, and then I like to read. I do like to read, but now when I read things in my spare time, I don't really read authors. I'm reading about real factual stuff that's going on in the world. Like I like to read things about, self-help, health thing, I really like information. I like knowledge. I like to know things. So if I am reading, those are the sort of things that I'm reading. And then so that's I guess I'm kind of a boring reader. I'm not really that interested in terms of stuff that I read. I'm kind of like, because when I'm writing and stuff like that, it's like I want to go to like a kind of like a fantasy world, but in my real lifetime, I want to know what's going on around me. You know what I mean? I'm just seeking information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anna, you're next. What do you like to read? Who are your favorite authors?
Oh wow. I'm gonna try to be really brief because I have a list. So to begin, I love Brenda Jackson. I love Brenda Hampton. I love Christina C. Jones. I love Naomi Bryant. I love Suri Day.
Okay.
Oh my God, Alexandra House. They and I'm not a big sit down, turn a page type of reader. I am into Audible books because I can I can multitask and enjoy a book. I can drive. I travel so much for work. So that's my go-to in the airport, on the plane, my Audible books. So I have a few favorites, and they sometimes I have to take a break and I go to my favorite authors, or I go to a couple authors because sometimes I need some inspiration. So their books inspire me, or like, oh, now I feel like I'm in a writing mood. So I'm not sitting down with a book in my hand, but if you see my headphones on, if you come into my house and I'm cooking, from my speakers is blaring somebody. I'm reading, and Delaney Diamond. Y'all, it's a pool of authors out there that I love. Nakia Shaw. I can keep going. I am a avid reader as well as a writer. So yeah, I have a lot of them.
Thank you, Quan. You're next. Uh, what do you like to read? Who are your favorite authors? I think you hinted at this earlier, or you mentioned it earlier. I'm not sure.
To read outside of the box. I mean, like everything that comes out in urban fiction, I support it, I buy it, but I'm more of like I like to read mysteries, so I like the Jeffrey Devers, I like the Walter Mosleys. I was on a big Laurel K. Hamilton kick for a while. Came up on Anne Rice. I just discovered V.C. Andrews, which is dope. Uh, Jackie Collins, I think Jackie Collins. Jackie, you know, it's crazy. Jackie Collins writes street fiction, but you won't. But they don't say that. They don't say that. If you read Jackie Collins book, Jackie Collins talking some gangster stuff.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Well, I have just a very eclectic taste in reading.
Okay. Awesome. And Keith,
Um,
we? Kareem, we.
for me, reading was always like, kind of like escapism, because there was one TV in the crib, and when you're a kid, you don't get to watch the TV. The adults mostly control the TV. So I started reading, and I remember my first quote unquote big boy book was The Hobbit when I was a kid. I picked that up. That's probably the longest book I ever read. So I started with that, and then I got caught up with The Lord of the Rings. I used to read that once a year, and so I got into fantasy. A lot of the fantasy authors, but I never found anybody that could write fantasy like Tolkien until I got into George R. R. Martin. So, like Song of Fire and Ice, the whole Game of Thrones. That's but still to this day, what I would tell you I read all the time still are comic books.
Mm.
So I could throw names out there, but most people won't know who they are, like Chris Claremont, who wrote the X-Men for a while. Because like I said, I always try to read, and there are a lot of like not well known authors that are amazing. That I'll meet them at a book fair and book festival, and we'll exchange books, and I'll be like, yo, you should be famous. Like, what's good? Like, you know what I mean? So I read pretty much. I respect everybody, and love so many authors. It's hard to really make a list, because also since I became a full-time author, I know what it takes to really sit down and write a book. So yeah, I'm a fan of a lot of people.
And I'm gonna say this right before we move to the next question. I feel compelled to just say it. I recently, within the last 3, 4 years, learned about independent authors, and my focus was traditional, and independent authors are some of the best ones out there. The best ones to put pen to paper, in my opinion. I'm not saying they're better than traditional, but they can rival them for sure. So yes, I've done some learning and some growing over the years. So I'll mute my mic. Thank you.
So, we are already almost out of time for our panelists. So let's wrap it up by just asking, and I'll continue with you, Keith, Kareem, Williams, if you don't mind. Tell us what you're working on now. And I'm going to provide links once again in the chat to our authors' books and where they're available online. So yeah, tell us, Keith, and then we'll go down through the rest of the panel. Tell us what you're working on next.
Okay. Right now, I am working on. I took a break from the really hardcore urban street lit for a little while, but now I'm working on a story called Foreign, which is street lit, but it reflects more like my background and where I grew up in Brownsville, Flatbush, because it's about a family that immigrated from Jamaica to America. Because foreign is a slang term that Jamaicans use to describe America or England or Canada. So it's basically their struggle with trying to keep their children on the straight and narrow in this whole different country with different culture and so on and so forth. So that's what I'm working on at the moment.
And Anna, how about you? What's next for you?
I got some exciting news. Currently, as far as novel wise, I've taken a break on that. I'm now focusing more on screenplay and converting books over to screenplays. I talked earlier to Loretta in the panel before, letting them know that my book, The Perfect Love Storm, is going to be converted to film.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. I got the awesome news a couple months ago that they'll go into production next spring of 2023. Still don't have a release date, but The Perfect Love Storm will be adapted to film. Black Odyssey Productions are going to be doing that for me. So right now I'm focusing on getting into converting my books over to screenplays to try to get more on the movie side. So that's what I'm working on now.
So cool. Kwan, how about you? What's next?
I am currently working on more than a few things. I'm trying to finish the second part to Promise, which is Promise Kept. I have another book that's, of course, is late. I haven't turned it yet. I can't say the title. And I'm doing some stuff in television. So that's like consuming a lot of my time.
Very cool. Excited. Finally, Joy, what's next for you?
That's funny. I guess me and Anna are doing the same thing. I'm actually currently writing my screenplay for Bitch, my very first Bitch book. So I'm super. I've been for so many years, but I always knew when I did it, I was gonna write the screenplay myself. That's one of the things that Walter Mosley, who I always consider like a mentor, he told me when I was ready for that to write it myself, but I just never seemed to have the time. So I'm right now writing the screenplay for Bitch, The Beginning, and I am so super excited about it. So that's why when Anna said what she was saying, I was like, oh my God, that's so exciting. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. That's what has my full attention.
So cool. I can't wait to see some of these things make it to the some of these stories make it to the big screen. I can't speak. Okay, thank you.
Let's go ahead and move on to a few of the questions from the audience. Feel free to just pipe in. I don't know that I'll go around the panel. Just pipe in if you have something to say about it. Someone asked, what role would you say that social media plays in the promotion of your books? And do you find inspiration from some of the drama that unfolds on social media? And I just want to mention that our contact for this presentation was strictly through social media and your fans. So I'm very interested to know, you all seem pretty active. How does that help you promote your books?
Social media is good. Social media is actually a gift and a curse. It's a gift because you don't necessarily have to run from city to city, state to state to touch the readers. You can just go on and you can interact with readers all over the country, all over the world. But it can also be very distracting. Like sometimes I find myself going on Instagram to check a message, and the next thing you know, I've wasted 2 hours on Instagram, scrolling with just 2 hours that I could have been using to write. So moderation, like I actually have my phone set to turn off all of my socials between certain hours of the day because I won't get anything done.
I'll go next. Social media has helped tremendously. It's like that's a good word of mouth because their friends is telling their friends and their friends is telling their friends. But like Kwan just stated, I'm burnt out on social media. I'm not as active as I used to be on social media. Like the last year, like you probably go to my pages, I have probably maybe a handful of posts. I do support other authors that I do post on my pages, but social media is a big distraction because I look up, like he said, it'll be 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd have missed 3 hours of sleep because I'm still scrolling. So I try to not be on social media as much. I do have a lot of followers and already, so I'm not even, I don't know, I'm not even actively trying to reach out to new people. I'm just letting the universe do it for me right now. So social media is a blessing and a curse. It was great when you first got out there, you was trying to build a name for yourself. But now that I'm somewhat established, as they say, yeah, I kind of shy away from it now.
Yeah, I feel I agree because it's amazing because I'm not a social media dude. Like I missed the whole MySpace era. And the only reason why I really got on like Facebook is because I ran into a friend and she was like, you know, all our friends are there. And then I saw how it could be a tool for me to reach people that I normally wouldn't come in, contact with all over the country, all over the world. But at times I take breaks from it because it's stressful for me. Because one of the things I do is, and I can't help it, like I'm just like that. Like I answer every message and readers are from all over. So yeah, I'm in New York, somebody will be in Cali and send me a message and I feel compelled to respond just because I appreciate the love and support. So I have, I don't really act like I have fans, it's more like family. But sometimes that hurts me because some of my readers treat me like I'm their author. And I keep telling them, hey, yo, listen, tell your coworkers, tell your friends. I know we chop it up sometimes, but you have to let other people know through word of mouth that I'm good because that's how I build my audience. But it's exhausting sometimes. So it takes a lot out of you and it is distracting. So there's times when, I think all of us feel that way where we just take breaks from it because like Quan said, you will go on just to answer a message and now I'm on Bleacher Report and I'm on, nah, I got to, I leave the phone in another room when I write just so I'm not tempted.
I actually, listen, I wish that I was a social media person. I think social media is the most amazing thing for authors. I'm serious. Social media it can put you everywhere at any time. I mean, that's it's because when you first before you used to have to do book tours and do things so you can meet people. I swear I wish I was a social media person. It's like it's the weirdest thing. It's like I'm a people person, but I'm an introvert. It's like a weird thing. So it's like I'm not and I wish I was, because when I tell you, I would tell any author, anybody that's trying to be, I mean, you look how many people just for music and stuff, you could never before just blow up with music just by social media. You needed to have a label, backing, all those type of things to blow up. Now you can sincerely do it on your own through social media. I seriously think that social media is the most amazing tool in terms of if you have a product or a brand or something that you're trying to promote and get out there. And I honestly wish that that I was a social media person. I think it would be, because I think that it would just do amazing things, but it's just like I can't do something that I'm just not into. And I'm just, unfortunately, I'm not really, I try to do it every once in a while, but it's like, but I think it's an amazing tool and everyone should try to utilize it.
Thank you. A person has asked in the chat, are there any current urban fiction authors who you think are doing something really interesting or new right now?
I'm always so behind the curve. Like like I said, I support everybody, but I'm writing so much. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 years. Like I may get a book for you today and won't pick it up to 2 years from now. So, I just kind of like watch the names and see like who am I reading group, like people who would gyrate to. I can't speak personally to say for sure though.
Yeah, it's kind of like that too, because a lot of times I try not to read what I'm writing, but I can tell, like, there's certain names, like Juan said, there's certain names that pop up, like you start to hear the buzz, so they're doing something right, you know what I mean? So, but there's so, and um in terms of the climate now, in terms of the business, there aren't technically gatekeepers. So you don't have to follow certain formulas to actually get your material to the and out in the public. So you have you have a lot of people that are doing different things that break away from the conventional, because you don't have to go to a publisher and they say, well, they understand this sells, this is what we do, this is how we want it. Because I do that a lot. Like, I just put out whatever I want. I take chances, I take risks. And I know other authors like K.R. Banks. I don't want to start naming names because a lot of them I'm cool with, and I don't want anybody to say, hey, why you didn't? But
Yeah.
you just have to look. Let me shut up.
I don't think much has changed. I think a lot of the quality may have declined because I've come across a lot of books that, well, I can say maybe approximately 3 years ago. I can't say now because I'm really heavy on audiobooks, but like maybe 3 or so years ago when I was purchasing books, it's like you can't even get through a paragraph without to reread it 15 times. It's like, okay, your auntie, just because she's a teacher, she cannot edit your book. You gotta go get this done by a professional. So I think the quality had went down at one point, but as far as the storytelling and things like that, is just the same thing, same story, but told by another person's point of view or experience.
I would have to say, just to add my little thing, because I can't really say, and it could just be me, because again, I'm not really in the know. I'm not on social media and things like that. But during certain times when I check certain things, I think before, like, you had like a Terry Woods, they have like more name recognition. Like before, authors had more name recognition. So because of that, you kind of knew when they were coming out something, because people knew more of their names sometimes than their actual books. They had they branded themselves where they had name recognition. I think now with these newer, like, quote, urban authors, I don't think it's more so name recognition. I just think that I see more of, they write a lot of, they put out a lot of material. Like, and I think that that's, and honestly, I don't know if that's good or bad. Personally, I think that that's great for them. If you're just knocking them out like that and you're able to do that, I think that's a great thing, because with Kindle and things of that nature, people are always looking for something new to read. And I think that if you're able to do that, you should, utilize that while it's still, something like that's hot to do. But I think that more so now, it's more like the authors, they're more known for the books they're actually putting out, like the titles of the books. Like they're just, constantly putting out, instead of you're saying, oh, that's such and such, she just, or he just came out with a new book. I just think that's kind of like how it is now, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Some of those names would be out there, but I just don't feel like the name recognition is out there in terms of how it was in the past. It's more just like they're putting out a lot of books. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
There's a lot more urban fiction authors now, for sure.
Exactly.
And thanks to self-publishing too, right? Like
Yes.
Kareem was talking about, people have been able to do what they want to do. And we definitely see that in libraries, where it's hard to stay on top of what new things are coming because there are a lot.
Yes.
So I see that too. I see what you're saying. Okay, so we are out of time for the panel portion of our presentation. Thank you so much for joining us, all of you authors. I really appreciate it. Kwan, Joy, Kareem, and Anna, you've been wonderful, and we've learned so much from you. Thank you for helping us understand the urban lit genre and helping us learn how to promote it to our patrons, because this is what we do on a daily basis, and we want to try to help your books succeed and help our patrons find what they love. So thank you so much. I hope you'll keep in touch. We wish you the most success in your future. You are more than welcome to hang out for the second half of our presentation where Mary V. Morrison is going to be speaking. I would ask though, if you're staying, please turn your cameras off so that Mary can have the floor. And I be expecting an email from me because I want to keep in touch with every one of you. Okay.
Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for
Nice
having me.
meeting you.
All right,
Nice
y'all be
meeting
well.
you.
You guys, bye. 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 Bye.
So for our audience, we're going to go ahead and get started on the second half of our presentation. Mary B. Morrison has been very patiently waiting. Thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to Mary. She is a New York Times bestselling author, playwright, screenwriter, and single mother to a son who is an international award-winning children's author in his own right. She's a breast cancer, domestic violence, and sexual assault survivor. And with more than 30 books in print, she's an artist and female empowerment advocate committed to uplifting women around the world. She has a bunch of recent books out, including Punani Paradise, 21 Types of Female Orgasms, that was released in March. She has contributed to one called Powerhouse Voices that came out in April. And then she has another coming out in May of 2023 called My Heart Will Love Again. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Mary V. Morrison, who is going to tell us about all the reasons why we should love street lit. Hi, Mary. Thank you for coming.
Hi, thanks for having me. This has been awesome. I've actually enjoyed listening to everyone that you've had speak today. So it's just been absolutely amazing. It's another reason why I love literature in general. So I'm going to ask, can I share a screen or is that possible?
I think so. Give me 1 second to give you permission.
Let me see.
No, you should be able to.
Okay, let me see. I just had it in front. Look, I just had it in front of me. Where is my, I don't want to share that. I want to share. Okay, now I'm having a slide. I just had it. Let me see. Let me do this and reopen and see if it comes up. If it doesn't come up, I'll just go ahead without it. Share screen.
Is it letting you?
Huh?
Is it letting you share?
Share sound.
Oh.
Oh, there I am. Okay, so it appears it's probably operator error, which means that it's probably just me, you guys. I'm gonna try one last time, and if it doesn't come up, it is, it would be a document. Let me see. And maybe I have to close it first, bring it back. Okay, if this doesn't come up, you guys, I'm just going to go ahead and continue. So I'm just going to, I'll have it off to the side so I can see it. I'm not going to worry about it. Since it's not coming up, we'll just continue with the program. And okay, so one of the reasons I just want to bring up like why we actually love street lit. And I've identified like 5 different areas. And the first one is it's relatable to an underserved community. And I know some of the authors actually touched on this. Also, it encourages female empowerment, inspires aspiring writers, promote literacy, and it increases the library membership and readership. So for all of those reasons, I feel like we absolutely love street lit. Now, one of the things, I'm going to start with the relatable to an underserved community, because Black students attribute their minimum effort to boring and uninteresting classes, a lack of motivation by school personnel, or poor study habits. Some of them have to actually get jobs, so they actually work and go to school, which leaves less time for them to actually read. Now, I've heard a lot, even when I was coming up in school, that, oh, Black people don't read, Black kids don't read. Nothing is further from the truth. The thing is that when we write, especially in the street lit genre, I love the genre myself, but I think that sometimes it gets the overflow of urban literature and street literature. When I first started writing, people would say, oh, so you write urban street lit. No, you have to give urban street lit its due process, its respect in the industry, because it requires a lot. And one of the things it definitely requires is knowledge and skill and ability to be able to even write street lit. It's like you have to just capture the soul, which is what I love about street lit. When I start reading it, I can see it, I can feel it. It's almost like you can taste it, you can touch it. It builds up this suspense and tension. And for all of those reasons, I think that it is definitely relatable in an underserved community, which a lot of times is the Black community when it comes to reading, etc. One of the powerful things within reading for me, I learned when my son was young, is just sit with them. If you can find the time as a parent to sit with a child for 20 minutes a day even, and read. I think it was Quan, or maybe it was Keith, somebody mentioned comic books. Whatever the child likes to read is going to be the most important thing. And even if it's street lit, I write adult content. I hear sometimes parents say, oh, my child can't read that. I don't, as long as your child is reading and you can have a conversation with your child about what they read, I think it's healthy, because you never know if you are inspiring that next generation, that person, that kid, that child who wants to tell their own story. And street lit, to me, I've heard it today, and I was smiling during some of those moments, because it encourages, the next thing it does is encourages female empowerment. A lot of times people think that street lit is negative, it's bad. People shouldn't be reading it, it's derogatory, it puts women down. And I feel like it depends on how we view things, because women go through a lot. And some of the things that women go through in street lit is real. And while it might not be our life or our everyday lives that we live this reality or see it, it happens. So I like the realism, no matter how gritty it is with street lit. I absolutely love it, and I had on my slides Shannon Holmes, Nikki Turner, Wahida Clark, Treasure Blue. It's like it's so many writers out there that's writing street lit, but not just street lit. And it does circle back around to female empowerment, depending on how you view it. And some of the writers actually take these women and bring them back. Like, I love the Bitch series, because she is a bitch and she is empowering, and she is, that girl that is going to elevate herself. And I think that in itself helps a lot of women to view life differently, because a lot of times we want girls to be all sweet, and girls don't do that. I came from that generation. It's like you have to be able to stand up for yourself, so to speak. So that part of it I absolutely love. And the next one inspires aspiring writers. That is what street lit does, because sometimes people think, oh, I can't write in that genre because, like, who's going to read it? Or, it's like, that's not, what I should write about. Or I can't write this because my mama's still alive. And, what if she, feels some kind of way? That is a reality for some individuals. So I'm going to circle back around to some of the myths, a couple of myths in writing street lit. And urban street lit is unique within a genre of urban literature, often confused with urban fiction because it's yet another area component within the street lit genre, within the urban fiction. So it's not just urban fiction. Urban street lit is very specific to the things that happens within the community of readers and writers. The next thing is a lot of individuals believe that any Black and non-Black person writing characters who exist within a community with sexually explicit content involving violence and drugs automatically makes it street lit. It really doesn't. It's not like just those components. It's really the depth of the character, the relatability. A lot of times, even if it's not your life or your your reality, you can relate to what's going on. I know Keith touched on that quite a bit in terms of making things relatable. I think that that is just essential in any type of writing where people can kind of see themselves and grasp. And, Anna talked about it more from a love standpoint and love relationship. Hers is a little different with romance and bringing that romantic. I would say that's more urban fiction, but definitely relatable to the community that's actually going to read it because they're also dealing with individuals who are hardcore, which crosses over into the street lit side of writing. The truths, a couple of truths about it is that urban street lit delves into the soul of the character and challenges the characters to face and overcome real obstacles. And sometimes that challenge, I think it was Anna who mentioned it, sometimes those challenges, you just can't overcome them. And maybe you do commit suicide. It's a part of life. Maybe you do overdose. It's a part of life. My mother overdosed on drugs because she was in a very abusive relationship. So when she mentioned that, I automatically could relate to that. And I'm sure I'm not the only one out there who finds this component relatable. And that's the beauty of what writers bring when they stand in their truth of writing street lit, writing fiction. You have to stand in your truth. You can't water it down. I don't know if it was Quan or Keith or someone else who mentioned, I'm not writing for the reader to tell me what to write. I'm writing and I'm being true to my characters. That's one of the things that's essential in any form of street lit. Street lit has been around for a long time. That's why so many people love Donald Goines and Iceberg Slim. It's because they pioneered a lot of the urban street literature in the current lit that we have today. I think that with this generation, they are perfecting it and doing it very well in terms of reality. And then the other thing with it, I think it was Deja who mentioned too, just like bringing all of this to reality. And I heard a lot of the authors, maybe everybody, mentioned film and television. I feel like there needs to be more street lit shown on film because even when you look at 50 Cent and Power, the characters that he brought to life, I absolutely love. I don't know what took me so long to watch Power. I think everybody was watching it except me. And during COVID, yeah, I'm dating myself now, but during COVID, I watched everything and just became a fan of the lives. And a lot of times it's the backstory of street lit that gives us knowledge and insight into the character's development, the character's soul, why they do what they do. So street lit is also inspiring and inspiring writers to jump in on this. Because I know a lot of writers out there say, well, you know, if so-and-so did it, I could do it, right? I wholeheartedly believe that. You just have to hone in. And I know one of the things I want to touch on what Deja was saying too, is that maybe they're not perfecting the skill of writing. They meaning the new urban lit writers, fiction writers who are just writing and cranking out books. But here's the thing, they are writing, and that is essential to the craft. I hope they get better if they're not where they want to be, but we used to have what VHS tapes. We don't have that anymore. And I say that because everything evolves and we're streaming a lot now. And so people can actually put their own content out. So street lit is just really an important part of American culture and how we live and how we function within certain communities. And I think that needs to be shown, as well as the other side of what everyone else is writing about. So the other fact is that one cannot write street lit if their soul does not connect with the Black community. What is fiction on paper? Some individuals live within these realities. So I feel like your soul has to be a part of it. It can't just be a blah, blah, blah story on paper that does not make you feel anything. Street lit will make you feel almost everything in the process, which I think is super amazing. And then I want to talk on about promoting literacy, because no matter where these writers are, if they're meeting the readers where they are with the level of interest, then they are accomplishing a lot, because we do need for our young people in particular to read more and to write more, and in their voices and in their realities. So street lit allows that to happen. And I'll wrap it up with street lit increases library memberships, because some individuals who want to read don't have the resources to go out and buy everybody's book. And I just so appreciate the library for doing this particular session today. It's just amazing. In the adult reading roundtable, the thing is that a lot of times people shy away from the adult side of writing, of speaking, of talking. If you hear the word bitch, if you hear the word pussy, if you hear the word, oh my God, you know, but people are living these lives every single day. And I cannot be more honored as an author, as a fellow author, to be a part of the street lit community, this roundtable of why we love street lit. I'm so excited about that. And I'm thankful to Jessica, to Lane, and to Loretta, and everyone who has put this together for street lit. And I'm just honored that I was able to participate today. So I'm going to end it there. But this is an exciting panel, and I know a lot of work went into it, and we appreciate you for doing so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. If anybody has questions for Mary, please go ahead and put them in the chat or the Q&A. Mary, you are a very prolific author, and you have a lot of books under your belt. I know that you really enjoy writing to empower women and to give them the information that they need to be independent. And I was wondering if you wanted to talk a little bit about your most recent book.
Oh, I would love to talk about my most recent book. The most recent book I have written is Punani Paradise, 21 Types of Female Orgasms. The book is very intentional because for anyone who reads me, I write erotica. I have a lot of sex scenes in the book. They're very graphic, they're very detailed. But once the Roe v. Wade issue came up with women not being able to have abortions, also that girl who believed in jumping in on politics and feeling some type of way about protecting women's rights. So I decided to write the book too, because women are so powerful, but a lot of times they downplay our sexuality, they downplay our ability to be able to pleasure ourselves without men. And I kind of like that part too. It's like, yeah, if you got a guy, that's a great thing, but you can do it all by yourself. And I also believe, like with women who are virgins, there's certain things that they should know. What I don't like is a woman who's had a baby and never had an orgasm. To me, that is just not right at all. So Punani Paradise, 21 types of female orgasms, delve into foreplay, the 60-second orgasm, the 60-minute orgasm. And Kegels are extremely important to a woman's health. So it delves into wellness and the importance of vaginal exercises. So the book is very powerful. And I appreciate your letting me speak about it, because I really do want women to have the book Punani Paradise. And I also have another one, Never Let a Man Come First, which is free for download on my website.
Thank you. You also have another book coming up that's not out until March. Is that a street lit genre?
It is not. Let me just say, I don't write street lit. I love street lit. So it's a little different in that regard, because I write contemporary fiction that's erotic, urban fiction, but not street lit. So the book that's coming out is really My Heart Will Love Again. Is really just about the soul of a young man who is lost in many ways and does many things that people will frown upon. But then when you find out his backstory of how he grew up and his mother and some of the things that she did and how ruthless she was behind the scenes, etc., then what I hope to accomplish with the book is that we not judge people if we don't understand them.
Very good. Mary, I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about your writing process. What's it like, and what are the hardest scenes for you to write in a fiction novel?
Oh, that's a great question. My writing process has changed post-COVID, post-breast cancer, chemo, radiation, the list goes on. I used to get up every morning and go to the cafe so regular that they knew exactly what I wanted to eat. I'd sit in the same chair if I could. And there was this little guy who would sit in my chair. Sometimes I'd be like, for real, like he's sitting in my seat today. But so now I basically work from home writing, but like most of the panelists that you had today, I am actually working on the screenplay for Single Husbands. I did the stage play twice, Atlanta and Oakland, and Single Husbands, 3 men that married for all the wrong reasons. And I decided to write that book because as I looked around, as they say on Hamilton, look around, but I actually saw a lot of relationships where people were in these relationships where the husband is just does his own thing, and then the wife is over here trying to be committed. So that's what the storyline is all about. But they think they have it going on until the wife, puts her foot down and, threatens them with divorce. That's a wake-up call for just about any man who's out there doing his own thing. So I'm more so into my screenplay, which I'll be done with in about 2 weeks. It's really done. I'm going back to re-edit it. And that's the next step. So then I'll get back to the book. Yes.
Good priorities. I have a question for you. So as librarians and in libraries, we have to make a lot of decisions about where we put our items and how we categorize them. And historically, there was a movement where we would sort of shelve Black authors, in a separate section so that readers could more easily find them. There has been a movement in more recent years, to interfile because we want, of course, everyone to find them. But I'm just wondering, do you think do you have opinions about where your books are located in libraries, and do you have preferences?
Absolutely. That is an awesome question. Absolutely, I have an opinion about that. I really think that the African American community of writers should have both, if at all possible, should have the interfiling as well as the urban section. And if that is not possible, I choose the urban section over the interfiling. And the reason why is because I would browse the books at Borders, browse the urban section, the tables, the area, the shelves, Barnes and Noble. They couldn't figure out where to put us. One day we were interfile, the next day we had our own section. But the reason why I love the section is because I could literally find the new writers. If you're new, I don't know you. I don't even know where to look for you unless I've come across something that says, or seen it on social media perhaps, or something like that. But I would literally browse. That's how I saw a lot of the bitch books from Deja on the table, Kwan's books. It's like they were always right there in one little nice space or shelf. And I love that. So I would rather say the section as opposed to interfacing, because if it were interfacing, a lot of people are not going to ever discover some of the African American writers that are absolutely awesome.
Hey,
Thank
Mary,
you.
it's an honor to talk with you. So excited. So, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. Thank you for speaking on that and mentioning how we display things too, because that really gives me some ideas about, you know, how you're finding things on displays at bookstores and how we can do that in our libraries as well to put the books face out so people are seeing what we have available. But you mentioned discovering new authors by browsing. I'm wondering, are there any current urban or other genre authors, especially Black writers, that you think are doing something interesting or new? That was actually a question that came from one of our attendees, actually.
Oh, okay. I have most of that except for the end. Are there any new authors that
are doing something interesting or new? Some authors you're excited about?
Oh, okay. So unfortunately, I can't say like I know a lot of newcomers that are in the business and in the industry. I will say that some people are behind the scenes working on their books, like Carrie Villa. I really like her, but her book isn't out yet. I actually worked with authors for a while, especially during COVID. I had classes. I would help them to write their book or to get started on writing their book. So I know she's one that actually finished, because writing a book is more challenging than people actually think. And so now I partner her with an editor, person who will do the cover for her book, because she will be independent. That side of it, I will say that I like to help people to get to that point. But as far as who the newcomers really are, I can't, unfortunately, like spit out a lot of names for individuals in that particular area. I apologize for that, but because we see a lot of the same authors, etc. I just went to the National Book Club conference and there were authors there, but someone recommended that in the future, that with conferences or with that particular conference, is that they partner a newcomer with a seasoned person. That way we get to see the newcomer and they're not just off to the side trying to elevate their work or their visibility.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you. That's something to keep in mind for library conferences as well.
Thank you.
I have a quick question, and it is from our list. What are the hardest scenes for you to write and the most enjoyable scenes? You kind of alluded to something earlier about your latest release, but what are the hardest scenes for you to write, create?
That's interesting. Loretta, let me see. I'll start with the easiest part, because the easiest part sometimes isn't always the obvious, right? So easiest part is when I'm getting to know the character and it just clicks. And then I feel like I know them. And so now they're a friend in my head, as all of my characters become eventually. And then I can write about that character and give them depth and give them background. And then I can listen to them, and then they talk to me somewhere between 3 and 5 in the morning. So that part becomes actually enjoyable, learning them. And then the challenge sometimes, believe it or not, the sex scenes are easy for me to write. However, after you've written 30 books and well over 100 plus sex scenes, it's like, how can they do something new? You know what I'm saying? It's like, how do I get them to do something new? So that part a lot of times is more challenging than people might think, because I don't want to do just the same old thing. So I'm being creative and trying to be creative in my personal life and on paper, because the two just have to mesh. And I like the sex shows, documentaries, I'll say, on television, on streaming. Those are really interesting to watch too.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have one more question, Mary. So Chloe asked in the chat that, the authors today have spoken about their love of genre fiction, like fantasy fiction and romance fiction. What do you think is the biggest misconception about genre fiction? And what is the best thing about writing in a specific genre? You especially have a lot of different genres. So I'm curious to know, what's the best thing about writing in a specific one?
Okay, I hope I'm not breaking up. The great thing about writing in a specific genre is that you begin to become familiar with it, and it should become easier to write in that genre. But I will say that Quan said something that just stuck with me earlier as a writer: break boundaries. Don't feel like you have to be pigeonholed to a specific genre. Write what you are passionate about. And I think that is very interesting. I will mention my son at this point. He is an award-winning children's book author, but Jesse also just signed, his name is Jesse Bird, but Jesse also signed a contract with Baker and Taylor, which all the libraries are familiar with Baker and Taylor. They are starting a children's book publishing division. And within that division, here's the reason why I'm mentioning it. Jesse wants to have more graphic novels because he feels like we're missing a generation of readers, maybe from like fourth grade and up, like the high school students. They would just love graphic novels with pictures, with text from amazing graphic artists and writers. And so he's going to roll out like 34 books with Baker and Taylor. I would say, look, email him. Tell his mama, tell Jesse at jessebcreative.com. If anybody's listening and they're interested and they want to do that, a lot of the libraries are partnering on the project because they're doing kids books by kids for kids. Now that I think is going to be amazing, where children actually come together to write and tell their own story paired with a professional graphic artist and presenting their own design. So in the world of street lit, back to street lit, I feel like street lit also has a place in the graphic novel realm. We just want people to read. And what you're doing here today is just, I'm just, look, taken aback. I'm just so excited because I feel like this is so awesome with the adult reading and with the library and caring enough to bring us forward to share, because we never know who we're inspiring, who you are inspiring, through this Zoom. And I just appreciate it. So write whatever you feel.
That's a great point. You should write whatever you feel. Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for coming today, for agreeing to help us out. You're wonderful. And I want to thank the whole audience for coming. We hope that moving forward, you'll be better informed about the street lit genre thanks to this presentation. That was our goal and our hope. If you have enjoyed today's program, don't forget to check out everything that ART has to offer. You can find our website at artreads.org. I would also like to thank Rails for hosting this program today. All right. Thank you all so much again. And thank you, Mary, and thank you to the audience for your time and attention and great questions.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.